blocks the clock, and I think that this one may be a little faster than the other one. But it's showing time, so we're going to start. Feliciano, can you also turn down the music? Or turn it off, because if you don't turn it off, it'll come through on the recording, on the project. The people at home will continue to hear the music. You guys won't. So some of you don't know that it's a live stream. We do a live stream here on Saturdays. And this morning is normally live streamed, but we decided to live stream this afternoon as well. So what we're looking at here, the lesson you received, you notice there will be out of order. Thursday was lesson number 1. Yesterday was lesson number 2. This morning, for Sabbath school, we actually did lesson 5. And then we did 4 for the 11 o'clock hour, and now we're back to 4. So when you put them in your notebook, you can put them in order of number. Because originally, the one we did for Sabbath school was going to be part of a weekend retreat that we were going to have 2 sessions in the afternoon. So today we're going to be looking at, or right now we're going to be looking at fulfilling emotional needs. Fulfilling emotional needs. Tomorrow we will continue with one more session. But we wanted to get an idea. Some folks feel that 6 o'clock is the best time for them. That's the time we have it scheduled for, tomorrow at 6. Others would like to see something earlier. At least 2 people have said to me they have work commitments and they can make it at 6, but not earlier than that. So I think we're going to keep it at 6. For those who are traveling long distances, apologies, but from 6 to, like we've been doing, 7:15 or so, we scheduled 7:30, but we've been finishing more about 7:15. Tomorrow is a very important one because we're going to take a lot of time working on understanding your personality. We're going to spend less time talking here and more time in the other room working on your personality. That is, understanding your personality and that of your loved one. But right now we're going to continue with his needs, her needs. Now, your sheet of paper, you will notice it is like the others, 4 sheets. But this one I got carried away and wrote a little more. And so it's on a 5th sheet, trying to cover the different his needs, her needs. So the sheet is inside, but it actually goes after. It's going to go last. It's page 5. Page 5. So let's begin looking at this. So what we understand is that beyond physical needs, everyone has physical needs. Science has discovered over the years that people also have emotional needs. So we're going to be looking at these emotional needs. Let's take a moment and bow our heads briefly to invite the Lord to lead us. Lord in heaven, we thank you for yet another opportunity to discuss these matters about growing our relationships. We pray, Lord, that we may come to understand a bit more of how much you love both husband and wife and how our unions are important to you. We pray for your leading now as we continue. We pray it in your name. Amen. So beyond the physical needs are the emotional needs. So some years ago, back in 1986, can you guys, if you move the mouse, my clicker's no good anymore. So if you guys just click on this again, just click on this, the second screen. Yeah, now it'll work. Okay, you can move the mouse again, but if you click on something else on the screen, I lose my projection. Okay, so the emotional needs, we're looking at a book that was written quite a few years ago, 1986, by a man named Willard Harley. Now, Dr. Harley, his father was a marriage counselor, a Christian marriage counselor. And so when he grew up, he decided that he would become a marriage counselor as well. And he began his work in the 1960s, he tells us. He says that during that period, he followed in his father's footsteps. He completed a degree in psychology, became Dr. Harley, and he started to work with couples, though his real work was teaching at the university, because in his PhD studies, he got into teaching. He continued teaching after he graduated, and so he was a teacher, but on the side, he was working with couples. But he tells us very plainly that in the early years, every couple that he counseled, their relationships ended messed up. So he said, what's going on here? He said, everyone I counsel, they end up divorced or in worse problems. And then he started studying further, and in fact, he even pulled away from marriage counseling, and he kept doing his teaching at the university. But people kept asking him to help them with their marriages. So he started working in an organization part-time because he wanted to learn skills from experienced marriage counselors. Because they tell you that the hardest, the most difficult counseling is marriage counseling. The most difficult counseling is marriage counseling because you're not dealing with one, you're dealing with two. Not only you're dealing with two, but most people, when they reach out for marriage counseling, it's after everything is pretty bad. So, marriage counseling is actually the most difficult of the bunch because people are waiting too long before they get help, and sometimes the relationship is too ruined. And secondly, because you're not dealing with one, you're dealing with two. And they each have their own opinion, they are each going different directions, and so it's considered the hardest. So he wanted to work with people who were experts in the field. And he started counseling. He picked up some pointers from his boss and from others in the organization, and he started using them, but he found that he was having the same luck. The marriages he was working with were falling apart. And then he said, man, what am I doing wrong? But then he started to look at his colleagues, and he noticed that their percentage was also low of successful marriages, of them saving marriages. And in the end, even his boss, who was the lead counselor, marriage counselor, was in the middle of a divorce by the time he left the organization. And so he said, man, what is going on? And so as people started coming to him, couples started coming to him, he started asking them a question. He started saying, well, first he started telling them, listen, I'm not successful here. So you may not get what you want, but I'll try to help you. And he started asking them a question. He started asking them, what can your spouse do for you that would make you feel happiest or make you feel that you are satisfied? And he started taking note of people's answers. He kept asking people these things over and over, and he started taking note of their answers. And as the years went by, he began to realize that people's answers fell under certain categories. And so he called those emotional needs. And he said every couple, every individual has emotional needs. But they tend to fall under these categories. He went on to talk about something called, yesterday we learned about something called the love tank. Well, he came up with something, it's very different, it's going to shock you. He called it the love bank. Love tank, love bank. They're very similar in name, but actually they're different, and he came up with his first. But let's look at what it says here in the Bible. It says, what advice does the Bible give regarding the treatment of others? He says, do not merely look out for your own personal interest, but also for the interests of others. And this is important for all relationships, but it's particularly important for the marriage relationship. Don't look out just for your personal interests, but look out for the interest of others. This is what his needs, her needs are about. couples looking out not just for their personal interest in marriage, but also for the interest of their significant other. The person who is important in your life. In the book, Ministry of Healing, the Christian writer tells us this: let's give each love rather than exact it. By the grace of God, you can succeed in making each other happy, as in your marriage vows you promise to do. So you can succeed in making the other person happy, and they succeed in making you happy. According to Harley, the way you do this is to supply their needs. Supply their emotional needs. Learn about their emotional needs, supply them, and you will have a happy spouse. He talks about something that I just said, the love tank or the love bank. But in him, he says that every person, or with him, he says that every person that you encounter makes a deposit into your love bank. Any positive relationship makes deposits. Any negative relationships makes withdrawals. The fuller your tank is, the fuller your bank is, the more satisfied you are. The more love credits you have from an individual, from your interaction with them, the better you feel about them. And the more you receive, you can reach a point where the deposits in your love bank turn into feelings of love. And so they're saying that many people, when they're dating, when they're come together for the first time, they do a lot of deposits into each other's banks. They create love for each other, but then once they're married, they're not fulfilling some of the needs, and those banks begin to empty. And they can empty to the point where people fall out of love with one another. But Harley says it doesn't have to be so. It doesn't have to be so. That you can do something for your marriages to stay strong. And for him, it is to meet each other's emotional needs. Notice how the Living Translation interprets Romans 12:10. It tells us, love each other with genuine affection. You know, your love for one another, especially as husband and wife, it should be a genuine love. Take delight in honoring each other. Now, Harley, in his study, he found that there were 10 basic emotional needs that humans had. He said we all have a need for admiration or respect. His term admiration also includes respect, the idea of respect. He also went on to say that we all also have a need of affection. We need affection. We need, in marital relationships, in a partnership, you also need recreational companionship. You need to spend time doing fun things with this person that you're with, that you love. Okay? He says that also a need for people in marriage relationships, in unions, to have domestic support. They have a need for domestic support. Okay? There's also a need for family commitment. That individuals have to know that you're committed to the family, both husband and wife. So these are needs that we all have according to him. He continues that we all have a need for financial support. We need to live. We need to be able to survive in the world. Okay? We also have this need for physical attractiveness. Most couples come together because in some way or another they found each other attractive. Okay? Now, this means differently for men and women. It's a little different, but it's there. You have a physical attraction for the person that you're with. That everyone has a need for conversation. That everyone has a need for honesty and openness in relationships. And as a married couple, you also have a need for sexual fulfillment, both man and woman. And so he listed these 10 as the basic emotional needs based on how people came to him over and over again with their different reasons why their relationship wasn't working, and how he would ask them, what if your partner did what you needed? What would it be? This kind of thing. And he came up with this list, and it is something that has been proven over the years. The book has gone through the test of time. Several studies have been done, It has come out as one of the books in a certain magazine. It came out when they interviewed a large number of couples, and they said what material out there, what information out there is most helpful. This book actually came out first as most helpful by a large number of couples. And so he lists this as the needs of both husband and wife. However, as we mentioned yesterday, as we mentioned today, when we said something about this, we mentioned that the list is different in priority for both men and women. That though we all have these emotional needs, for women, some of them are more important than others. And for men, a totally different group is most important for them. So what happens is that women will normally give what they need, but for the man that's not important, so they feel like they're not getting anything. And the man will normally give what they think is important, but that's not as important for women, and so they feel that they're not getting what they need. And so Harley teaches that what you need to do is understand not your need, you need to understand your spouse's needs. In understanding your spouse's most important needs, then you can supply them. So now we're going to go over the list that's generally, how these are generally listed by men and women. But after we're done here, we're going to give you guys an opportunity to go into the other room and look at your own specific, because every individual is different. So you might not fit the common list. You may be different. Your need for this may be higher than the average man, if you're a man, or your need for that may be lower than the average woman, and though the average woman lists it as one of the most important. So it's up to you what your needs are, understanding what those are, and if your spouse can understand those, then they can supply your needs. And so that's what we want to give opportunity for you guys to work through it in a worksheet, and then to share your findings with one another to see in what areas can I supply those needs. If I see that for my spouse, family commitment is a thing of major importance, then I need to do more in that area. And this is what it's about. You meet one another's needs. Now, what the studies have found is that many couples really don't know that they're not supplying the other's needs. And it isn't because they're being selfish. It's because they truly don't know. They don't know they're not supplying. One expert, John Gottman, he speaks about, or he tells us, couples often ignore each other's emotional needs out of mindlessness, not malice. They're not doing it on purpose. They just don't know. They don't know. And so we want to give people opportunity to know each other's needs. So we're looking first at her first need. In the general information, the one that is listed highest for women is affection. So her number one emotional need is affection. The Bible refers to it as love. Love your wives. Okay? Affection. A woman needs to feel that she is loved. And the studies are indicating that this is her number one need. According to the book Adventist Home, who has the greatest impact on the life of a spouse? Well, it's interesting to know that husbands and wives have the greatest impact on each other. This is not the only book to talk about this. No one can so effectually ruin a woman's happiness and usefulness and make life a heart-sickening burden as her own husband. Nobody can make it so bad for her like her own husband. No one has that much influence or power over her like her own husband. And then the reverse is also true. And no one can do 100th part as much to chill the hopes and aspirations of a man, to paralyze his energies and ruin his influence and prospects as his own wife. How does the Bible address a woman's greatest emotional needs? Well, we looked at it this morning. We looked at the idea. It tells us, husbands, love your wives, just as Christ also loved the church and gave himself for her. Studies have shown that the woman's greatest need for the average woman, because some are different, is for her to feel loved by her husband. for him to make her feel that she's the only woman in the world for him. And if he had a chance to do it, he would do it all over again and marry her. He would marry her all over again. To love her. Okay? This love can be seen in acts of affection. We talked about yesterday love languages. We talked about one of the love languages being physical touch. But for women, there is a need for her husband to be romantic. See, romance for men is like, eh. But for women, it is important for the relationship to be romanced. So men, you can do a whole lot in romancing, hugging your wives, in giving them kisses, not sexual, in writing them little notes and telling them that they're important to you. A lot of women complain that the only time men want to be affectionate. Now, in this session, we're going to talk openly about sexual activity. So, a lot of men complain, or rather, a lot of women complain that their husbands are only interested in affection, in holding or things of this nature, showing affection only when they're interested in having a sexual relationship. And for a lot of women, it makes them feel used. It makes them feel that they are not valued, but rather they're more an object. Now, Harley places a man's most important emotional need. To him, it is sexual fulfillment. Because he believes it to be the opposite of affection. He believes it to be the counter. That when you are affectionate to your wife and you're showing her that she's special and loved, that she reciprocates in fulfilling the man's need for sexual fulfillment. And so he places it as number one, placing the two opposite each other. But other experts say, no, sexual fulfillment is important for men. It is agreed upon by most experts. It is important for men, but it is not their number one need. In fact, other experts put another need as more important, and it's the one we spoke about this morning. Harley mentions it or calls it admiration, but others call it respect. Okay? The word respect is defined in the American Heritage Dictionary as esteem for or the sense of the worth of a person. Esteem for. So for a man, respect means that my spouse holds me in high regard. My spouse does not see me as a child, but they see me as someone of high regard, someone of importance. The things I say, the things I do are important. This is how a man defines respect. Okay, we go further. In the book, Laugh Your Way to a Better Marriage, the author goes on to tell us, respect for a man means that he wants to be held in esteem and to be shown consideration and appreciation even when he makes mistakes. Now, women generally show disrespect to their husbands. If you were to ask them, they'll tell you, I'm not disrespecting him, because they define disrespect differently, or they define respect. But for the way women normally disrespect men, don't show esteem for them, is when they criticize men, when they nag them. But the number one is treating them like children, mothering their man. So how does a woman mother their man? The same way she does the things for the children, she does for him. The same way she's correcting the children on what they should wear, go change that, doesn't look good, same way she does it with the man. The same way she's telling him, you better do this, or she's reminding him over and over again to do the same thing. Men are grown, ladies. They don't need to be reminded so much. Usually, a man understands, I got to do this, but they're going to do it at their time. Now, it's okay to remind them. It's okay for an occasional reminder, but when you're constantly, that is like a mother talking to a child. And so this is the number one way, according to studies, that women disrespect their husbands, treating them like children. So reading the pamphlet tells you a little more of what we're talking about. But these are ways that women disrespect their husbands. So men define respect as being held in esteem. Folks, the respect for the husband is in a household is determined by the wife. If the wife treats the husband poorly, so will the children. If the wife does not esteem her husband, neither will the kids, and neither will anyone else. You see, a man feels good at work when someone says, hey, you did a fantastic job, you did great. The esteem, the respect from people at work, that's okay. But it's nowhere near as important as the person who's supposed to be the most important in their life. When the wife is belittling, the husband feels he can't do. He is not reaching his level. And so the studies have shown, just like they say, the old saying, that behind every great man is a great woman, that kind of thing, well, it's true. Because what studies are showing is that when men are supported by their wives, they can go further and do more. Because this is the greatest need for a man. Well, we continue. It says, how does the Bible address a man's emotional needs? Well, it uses the word submit, but we saw a verse later that uses the word respect. Respect. Okay? So here we go back. So the first one for women was affection, most important for her. Admiration or respect, the most important for him. The second most important for women in the studies in general is conversation. Gary Smalley. Has anyone here ever heard of Gary Smalley? He has written quite a few books on family. He passed away a few years ago, but he's written quite a few books and even has all kinds of videos out there where he talks about marriages. And in one of his books, he talks about the differences between men and women and talking. Okay? In his book, he says the average woman speaks 25,000 words in a day. And the average man, about 12,000. Okay? So here's what happens. A woman goes to work, and she's doing her stuff all day, and she's talking with everyone, but when she gets home, she still has 15,000 words to go. Okay? But he's done. I talked to my 12,000. And men and women actually wind down and relax differently. They relax differently. Men will usually relax, sitting down, not really doing anything that uses your mind. You're just going to, take in the day. But a woman unwinds, relaxes by opening up and talking. And she still has many words to go. And if the woman is at home, if she's not out working, and she's working with little kids specifically, where she doesn't have real conversations with, well, she's got a lot of words. A lot of words at the end of the day. And so a woman's great need is for her to actually converse with her husband. Have conversations. So a husband who knows this need can know, look, I can even plan it. Let me give time to my wife every day. Let me give her 20, 30 minutes a day where she can talk to me about her day, where she can talk to me, because this is one of her needs. And so you give her time and let her talk to you. Let her talk about the day. Because when a woman talks about, when a man talks about the day, how'd it go today? Good. What'd you do? Work. But not a woman. A woman will enter into all the details because she's including you into her world, okay, into what happened. And many times when a woman is talking about the way the day went, she may say things that this is important for men to know, that she's not actually asking for advice. She's not asking for you to fix the problem. She may be presenting the issues, but what studies have shown is that this is the way a woman processes. She'll present the issue, but she's not looking for you to give her the answer. She's going to work that out. She needs you to hear her out and listen. And so this morning, what we were talking about, where you do active listening, men do active listening. Now, you're tempted to give it, well, just do this. This is the answer, because we look at it more logically. But the woman has to deal with the emotion, what she felt during the day also. So you fight the urge to give her advice and just be there. So the conversation, many men have saved their marriages by simply giving their wives 30 minutes a day to hear them out. Now, women at the same time understand that men relax and wind down differently, so you also have to give them their time. But when you're letting them converse about their day, this creates a close bond between the woman and the other person. So when you are listening to them, and you're not talking about reading the newspaper, playing with the tablet, looking at the game while she, but rather you are giving her attention. You're giving her the attention. This goes a long way for women. Okay? So let's look here. Meaningful conversation is an important need for women. When dating, many men take the time necessary to converse with their significant other. You're dating. You give them the time. You're calling on the phone. You're talking for a long time. You're sitting at the tables at dinner, and you're talking, and the need is filled. But then you're married. How's your day? Oh, fine. Well, women still need that. It was going on when you were dating, but now you're married. It's gone. So it needs to continue. In these early stages, this need for women will be met on a regular basis. Once married, however, the desire for conversation on the part of men with their wives often diminishes. This is an important need for women. The next one, the one is listed as the second need for men, is actually recreational companionship. What is this talking about? Let's go back to the idea of dating. When you're dating, the two people are dating, they're doing a lot of fun things together. And many times, the women are willing to do stuff that he normally does, that they won't do. But then after they're married, I don't need to do that anymore. And so you don't do it. But the fun stuff, the man still wants to continue to do them. So what happens is he now has to find friends to do it with. And some of the funnest things, the most exciting things, the things that bring him joy, he's doing with someone else. So after marriage, you want to continue to also take time to spend with your husband. Before marriage, many couples plan dates around their favorite recreational activities, and for a time they share their funnest moments with one another. After marriage, this often changes. Men can create strong friendships by sharing activities together. We talked about the fact this morning, just briefly, that men will go on a fishing trip, they won't talk, and they'll come back bonding because they did something together. Okay? They did something together. Well, what's happening is that after the dating process, a lot of women are not doing activities with their husbands, and their husbands are then bonding with other people. They're bonding with other people. Men can create strong friendships by sharing activities together. When wives become their husband's recreational companions, the bond between them grows. Now, in the book, Harley says that this was an issue for him and his wife. That after they got married, his wife stopped doing a lot of the stuff they did before. They used to do a lot of physical things. They used to do tennis together. They used to do all kinds of stuff. But after their marriage, she was like, I'm not a physical person. And if you want to go out, we'll go shopping. That's it. But he then found himself doing the activities alone or with friends, but not with her. The funnest stuff, but not with her. So the recommendation he gave and the way they figured it out in their family is that, or in their home, is that they sat down and they began to discuss, what are some things that you like to do? What are some things that I like to do? What are some things that you wish you could do, that you've always wanted to do? What are some things that I've always wanted to do? And you make a list, his, hers, and then you compare the list. And the things that you guys have in common, the things that you guys want to do together, the things you can try together, you start to do together. They may be different than what you did before as a man by yourself or with your friends, but they will give you things that you and your spouse will do together. He also recommends that if there are things that the husbands do that you as a wife, you can do. You may not think it's the greatest thing, but you can do it. Do it. Meet your husband halfway. Okay? So you can meet this need. Now, for some folks, you don't have this. This isn't very important for me because my greatest activity and recreational activity was reading. So it wasn't a big deal. But for others, you go out and you want to have your spouse there with you. Now, the next item for women that's listed is honesty and openness. Okay, so women need their husbands to be honest and open with them. This provides a woman a sense of security in her relationship, that her husband is not going to get up and go. When you're open and honest, she feels, yeah, he's going to be true to me. This home is secure. And so this is listed as one of her high needs. If a husband does not maintain honest and open communication with his wife, he undermines her trust and eventually destroys her sense of security. Now, his next need then is physical attractiveness. Well, studies have shown that men and women are stimulated differently by sight. Men are stimulated more by what they see. Men are more visually stimulated than women. On average, men need an attractive wife. What does that mean? Isn't that being selfish? Isn't that all messed up? But the studies are not showing that men are running after beauty queens. That's not what it's showing. What the studies are showing is that a man wants his woman to take care of herself. You know, some women, after they are married, they no longer comb their hair. They no longer dress nice. When they were dating, they dressed their best. They combed their hair. They put on their makeup. They looked their best. But once they're married, sweats all day. I never comb my hair. Well, this is what it's talking about. Men want their wives to take care of themselves. Not be the beauty queen, but take care of themselves. Take care of themselves. So when he's walking, he's proud to have the person next to him. Okay? This is the way the studies are showing that men view this attractiveness. Husbands expect their wives to take care of themselves. Well, I was changing herself for themselves and put them both in there. Keeping up their physical attractiveness, wearing their hair, makeup, and clothes in a way that her husband finds attractive and tasteful. So the husband is not looking for the youngest thing. That stuff is out there. People say that, and some are that way. But the average man, according to the studies, is not that way. But the man does appreciate his wife taking care of herself. And that's what he's saying. That she takes care of herself. And that makes men feel proud that they have their wife next to them. But when the wife is not taking care of herself, well, they don't feel proud. This is what studies are showing. So the next item is then financial support. You know, we live in a day and age where we consider more and more, and we say more and more that men and women are equal. They're equal in everything, And yes, this is true. However, studies still indicate that people view the roles of men and women in the home differently. In fact, a recent study conducted by Pew Research Center 2 years ago stated this. It stated that the greater number of Americans still hold the view that men are to be the primary financial provider in a home. Though we talk about equality, we talk about men and women are equal, society still sees the financial responsibility falls heavier on men. In fact, the studies show that most men are willing to marry a woman who expects to be financially supported. So a man marries a woman, he doesn't have a problem if she wants to stay home. Most men don't have a problem if she wants to stay home and take care of the kids, and that's her full-time work. The studies show that most men don't mind that. If she works, okay, that's okay. That's good. Oh, that's okay. But if she doesn't, that's her choice. But the studies show that the other way around is not accepted. It says, but statistics indicate that there aren't many women who would marry a man they would need to support indefinitely. Yes, we see it one way, but no, we don't see it the other. That's what the studies show. That women want men that are able to support them financially. That even if I'm working, but if I lose my job, you're still able. That's the way the studies are showing. That's what it's indicating. Okay? Now, of course, there are always exceptions, but for the larger degree, men will marry whether the woman has a job or not. But women will not marry the other way around. But this is even a biblical concept because we're encouraged to take care of our families. So it says, what responsibility does, sorry, again, a typo, what responsibility or do, it should be do we have toward our families? Something there is right. Okay. But if anyone does not provide for his own, and especially for those of his household, he has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. So Scripture tells us, look, we have to, this is specifically written to men, the way that it's expressed, that we need to take care of our family. And this has been expected throughout society. But even now, when roles are changing and when the equality has come, people are still viewing that the responsibility falls on men. And that's okay. Because the idea of a man providing for his home is good. However, women are not just saying the man has to have the money. Or I won't, it's about the money and I'm not going to marry him if he doesn't have the money. That's not what the studies are showing. What the studies are showing is that women are more concerned about the stability, whether the future is going to see us with a house, our kids on the street, or they're more concerned about whether we're going to end up on the street or not. They're more concerned whether we're providing for whether we're able to provide the needs of the household. And so, because this is a larger concern for women, they want their husbands to give them that security. Now, it doesn't mean that a man has to win or make a lot of money, because in the book it's also discussed. The idea is discussed that if you can do better, do better. Get more education, do more, reach further to provide better for your family. But when you can't, well then you budget. And either way you budget. You live within your means. And you provide. And when you live within your means and inform your spouse, you inform your wife, the two of you work your budget, and then everybody's happy. Okay? This is what the studies show. That we can live within our means. Okay? So, a need for women then is financial support. Now, a need for men is domestic support. What in the world is domestic support? Does anyone know? It's the household. Okay, believe it or not, even in today's world, studies indicate that men still have this image in their mind of the cleavers. You guys know what we're talking about? Anyone seen the cleavers? Leave It to Beaver? Yes. Where the woman takes care of everything in the house, the man goes out to work, he comes back to a happy home, and he's able to spend the evenings with his sons and with the family. This image is still in men's minds. Okay? And it has become a need for men. See, a lot of the complaints that men have when they come to counselors is, oh, the house is a mess, she doesn't do this, she doesn't do that. Okay. Well, this is a need for men. Because men have the image that the household is the woman's domain. Even if both work, the image in men's mind, according to studies, is that the home is the woman's domain. And so when a man comes home and everything is a mess, and everything is disorganized, and kids are running everywhere, it's disruptive to his way of thinking. However, the studies have shown this, that men are just not like standing there and saying, woman, get this stuff clean. Okay, that's not what the average man is doing, and that's not what the average man even wants. What they have found is that the man kind of looks to the woman to be the leader in in organizing the home, in organizing responsibilities in the home. And if we share responsibilities, that's just fine for men. We share responsibilities, but they're looking for the woman to organize. So, a recommendation given in the book is that husband and wife sit and talk about the needs and then divide responsibilities. Divide responsibilities, and then everything in the home is taken care of. You divide responsibilities. But this has been listed as a need for men. And so we're going to look at two more. So an important need for men is domestic support. This involves the creation of a peaceful, well-managed home environment. To meet this need, what men desire more is an organized plan where, if necessary, both husband and wife participate in handling the needed tasks. The studies are showing that men don't have a problem sharing the responsibilities, they just want it more organized so that everything in the home is taken care of. So what does the Bible say about an excellent wife? It says an excellent wife is the crown of her husband, but she who causes shame is like rottenness in his bones. Well, that was his. So I think we did that one already. His number one. Okay. Showed up twice. Apologies, folks. Okay, so here is what's considered her last need. Family commitment, number 5. So her last need then is that she wants a husband who's committed to their home. Not a husband that's working all day, doing all kinds of hours, and doesn't care about the family. Well, he may say he does, but work is actually more. The wife wants a husband who makes the home a priority. Makes the home a priority. Women need their husbands to be committed to their home, putting his family first. They need their men to read to their children. These are examples. Read to their children, engage them in fun activities, take them on family outings, plan family vacations. This is what the studies are showing that women want from their husbands. Okay? In addition, we're seeing most of all, wives want their husbands to take a leadership role in the family. A leadership role in the family. Ideally, a woman wants to marry a man whom she looks up to, whom she respects, and have her children grow up to be like their father. What women want here in this, what we're seeing is that they want men who are going to make their homes a priority. They're going to make their family and their children a priority. That are not going to put the work first, or put time with friends first, or put doing this or that first. Working on the car all the time to soup up some car that you have and not give the time to the family. When husbands don't give the time to the family, what happens is that all these other things become a problem. She begins to complain about you're spending too much time with your friends, you're spending too much time with that car. But if a man does allow the time, or allot the time, and gives the time to his family and shows that they are a priority, then these other things don't bother her. These other things don't bother her. So what happens is that in this need, women need to know that you as a husband are committed to the household, committed to the family, not just the house, but to the family. And in the last one, which he placed first, was sexual fulfillment. Now, for men, this is considered by almost all professionals to be one of their top 5. But as we said, many professionals say it is not their top. But Harley places it first because he says it is the opposite of affection. When you show affection, when you're giving your wife non-sexual hugs and kisses, giving her little notes, romancing her, her response will be to fulfill your need here. But when you're not doing it, then you're not fulfilling her need. She feels more like you're a stranger to her. And so she is not so ready to fulfill this need. So for this need to be fulfilled, men have to fulfill her need for affection. This is what the studies are showing. But, well, let me read you directly from the book. It's in your lesson here. He says something important on this extra sheet of paper here, how a lot of men feel. It's right here in the center, that paragraph. It says, when a man chooses a wife, he promises to remain faithful to her for life. This means that he believes his wife will be his only sexual partner until death do you part. He makes this commitment because he trusts her to be as sexually interested in him as he is in her. He trusts her to be sexually available to him when he needs to make love and to meet the sexual needs, just as she trusts him to meet her emotional needs, her need for affection. Unfortunately, in many marriages, the man finds that putting his trust in this woman has turned into one of the biggest mistakes of his life. He has agreed to limit his sexual experience to a wife who is unwilling to meet that vital need. He finds himself up the proverbial creek without a paddle. If he has religious or moral convictions, or if they're strong, he may try to make the best of it. Some husbands tough it out, but many cannot. They find it elsewhere. That's what he's telling us. But men, this need is fulfilled when her need for affection is fulfilled. It goes both ways. Now, there are a couple of things you should know. Oh, by the way, for men, it's not just about, sex is not just about the physical encounter. See, for a man, sex is a confirmation of a woman's desire and love for him. This is how a woman shows she loves him, in his mind. Okay? It is a reaffirmation of his self-worth and masculinity. Someone wants to be with me. Someone is with me. This strengthens a man's psyche. It's not simply about the physical. Okay? But there are reasons why men will not be sexually attracted to their wives. Okay? Let's read a little bit here. We've gone a little bit over what we were supposed to do here. It says, beyond being sexually available to her husband. Let's jump down to the two paragraphs in the end. There are, however, certain factors that can affect a man's desire to be sexually active with his wife. If he feels, for instance, that sexual activity is a chore for his wife, it is a total turn-off. She's not attracted to me. She doesn't want me. She's just doing this because out of obligation. That's a turn-off for men. Okay? When she treats it like a chore, she's telling him that he is not worth it, and in essence, he is not loved. This is how men receive it. Another reason why men lose interest in sex with their wives, another reason a man may lose interest in sexual activity with his wife is if he feels that she is mothering him. We talked about this mothering a bit. That is, generally treating him like a child. This can turn off his sexual desires for her, simply because no man wants to be intimate with his mother. So when you're mothering your husband, he begins to lose interest in you as a woman. Okay? This is what studies are indicating. So folks, we've gone over here, but let's go over to the next room, and we're going to look over, after a prayer here, we're going to look over the, we prayed at the beginning, we'll pray at the end over there, so we're just going to move over after you guys. If you need to take a break, you can. And we're going to pass out some emotional questionnaires where you can look at your needs. These are the general needs for men and women, what men consider the top 5, what women consider the top 5. However, you as an individual are different, and your needs may be different. So it's good to understand yours, what are the most important for you, and your husband or wife to understand. So we want you to go through it. It looks long, it's 12 pages, but it's actually much shorter than you think. There's one question per page, so you just look at it, and it kind of gives you some options. So you're really only looking at a lot less than 12 pages worth of questions. So you'll be done with it in about 2 minutes. No, it'll be longer than 2 minutes. But you'll be done with it fairly quick, and then you take some time to compare it. So let's go over to the next room, and we'll continue with understanding your particular emotional needs.